some of you might have been here when Frank Ostaseski was visiting about a month ago or 2 months ago. I'd like to share a story that's in his book that I think really shines a light on our theme for right now. Frank works with the dying, and he works with, he's done this for many, many years, and he describes accompanying a young man named Matthew who's dying of AIDS. Matthew's gay, and he's been a long-time Buddhist practitioner. So he's suffering from high fevers and pneumonia, and also from deep fear. He was raised in a fundamentalist Christian family, and the commandments of a punishing God had literally been beaten into him by fire and brimstone preacher, man of a father. So that's the story he's living with. He believes, as he's closing into his death, that God will condemn him for eternity to hell due to his sexual orientation. Okay, that's the story that's tormenting him. It's not surprising for long-buried cultural mores and early religious training to suddenly resurface at the time of death, even if the person has deliberately tried to leave those beliefs far behind. So the story is you're intrinsically bad, you're going to be punished. So Frank tried to support him. He tried to orient him towards mindfulness and compassion practices that Matthew had been studying and loved. And he created an altar by his bedside with a Buddha statue and a healing tanka, which is a traditional Tibetan painting. And when that didn't calm Matthew, he held his hands and massaged his feet and played his favorite chanting music. No change at all. Matthew was deeply, deeply disturbed. So finally the doctor orders a sedative, and even that didn't work. Matthew's spinning in a world of confusion, shame, and dread. Frank writes, by 2 a.m, I was exhausted and feeling ineffective and powerless. I chose to go home and get some sleep. On the drive there, for some unknown reason, I thought of my own first Holy Communion, the Catholic ritual that ushers young innocents into the loving lap of God. When I got home, I searched through my storage closet to find my memory box, a small collection of mementos I hold dear. Here I located a 5-inch plastic figurine of Jesus surrounded by lambs and little children. Instead of going to bed, I drove straight back to the hospital. As Matthew continued to moan, shout, toss, and turn in agony, I took down the tanka and replaced the Buddha statue with this small plastic Jesus. Just as I was smoothing the altar cloth, a cleaning woman named Dina came into the room and spotted the figurine. Setting her mop to one side, she said with great enthusiasm, "Merciful Jesus, when his kindness is with us, everything is all right." At once, Matthew's eyes locked into Dina's. An angelic smile spread across his face as he pivoted toward the altar to gaze at the plastic Jesus statue and then back in Dina's direction. His entire body relaxed. In that moment, the punishing God of Matthew's childhood, the one whose wrath he had been taught to fear and whose judgment had made him feel like a terrible person, was transformed into the merciful God he also knew and loved, the one who adored all his children, no matter their so-called faults and flaws, a kind and forgiving, all-accepting and benevolent God. Dina's faith in God's love was so secure that it lent Matthew exactly the strength he needed to defeat those stories that were tormenting him. I left them together there. They didn't need me. So Matthew is imprisoned by a story that was passed down from the culture through his parents, or a portion of the culture. And he was able to release it, and what made it possible? It's the healing power of love. He was reminded of and invited into love. And so it is that when we can connect in some way to the living field of loving, the stories that we're holding lose their power.